and recognizes Dr. Paul Chitwood from the International Mission Board to bring a report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the privileged messengers of bringing the report of the International Mission Board. Privileged to have Keith Evans, our current board chairman, who is a messenger from Pullman, Washington, Resonate Church, who is here with me on the stage. And certainly it is always my honor to bring greetings from your 3,500 plus IMB missionaries who did ministry work last year in 155 countries of the world, from the 2,700 kids who are a part of those missionary families, and from the support team of the IMB here at home. From the Great Commission to the Great Multitude, we unite together in a great pursuit of those who have yet to hear the good news of the gospel. We work together to address lostness as the world's greatest problem, to make disciples in every nation, all tribes, peoples, and languages. As a pastor for 18 years and a former state convention executive director, I was pleased to see that group standing on the stage just a moment ago for the NAM report. I had the opportunity to cheer for pastors and churches across Kentucky. And I praise God for the numbers reported on last year's annual church profile, this year's from last year's ministry, showing growth in baptisms, new church members, and worship attendance. While I celebrate all that God is doing through Southern Baptists in North America, I invite you to join me in celebrating all that God is doing through Southern Baptists among the nations. At the same time that the ACP numbers were being released by Lifeway, the IMB's annual statistical report, which we refer to as the ASR, was being prepared for our IMB trustees. The ASR represents reporting from every IMB missionary team on what God is doing through their work and the work of their Baptist partners on the ground where they have eyes on the work of those partners. The ASR affords IMB an incredible opportunity to communicate to every cooperating Southern Baptist and Southern Baptist Convention Church the global reach of your ministry. Working through the IMB, your Southern Baptist Church and my Southern Baptist did gospel work in 155 countries last year that resulted in more than 451,000 people hearing a full gospel presentation through those missionaries and their national partners in person. As a result of those gospel witness opportunities, 141,000 people professed faith in Jesus Christ. There were another 800,000 plus souls who heard the gospel online in video content in their language that was viewed to at least 95% complete. As we celebrate the growing number of baptisms here in the U.S., as a result of those gospel shares and those conversions overseas, we're thrilled to be able to tell you that your church can add to its ACP baptisms another 116,992 who were baptized overseas through the work of their IMB missionaries. So whether it's a rural church of 15 in Kansas that did not have the privilege of seeing anyone baptized last year, or a mega church of 10,000 in Texas that reported several hundred baptisms last year, what a blessing for every Southern Baptist congregation to be able to rejoice in nearly 117,000 souls buried with Christ through baptism into death and raised to new life. With an ACP in one hand and the ASR in the other, every church can celebrate how God is using you around the world. We're also grateful to report that in this past year, your church was a part of distributing over 129,000 Bibles and another 157,000 scripture portions overseas. More than 400,000 people were impacted overseas by human needs projects, and 60,000 people trained in evangelism. To keep the work going and growing, we've appointed 266 new Southern Baptist missionaries in the past year, including the 83 we celebrated yesterday as being sent from your churches, our churches, to the nations. Like the celebration that we've enjoyed here as we've heard about all that God is doing through our cooperative work as Southern Baptists, might it only be tempered by the reality of growing lostness around us and around the world. Among a global population of 8.1 billion people, growing at a rate of 200,000 every single day, the number of people who die lost each day is also growing. This year, that average number reaches to 174,202 souls who will enter a Christless eternity every single day and spend forever in hell. If we are not sufficiently motivated in the work of missions because of the joy of more going to heaven, might we be motivated by the sorrow of more going to hell. May we never forget this mission that we are on. The great pursuit of the lost is the most important work in the universe. Wherever the lost can be found, we want the gospel to get to them. When you pray, when you give, when you send, and when you go, eternities are changed. With regard to your giving, thank you, Southern Baptist. The IMB is incredibly grateful that we received your generous gifts last year of nearly $97 million through our cooperative program, and your gifts of nearly $196 million through the Lottie Moon Christmas offering. Thank you for making the past two Lottie Moon Christmas offerings the largest in IMB history, and this year's lottery offering that will not be complete until our fiscal year's end in September on the 30th day, I am pleased to tell you is currently trending ahead of giving towards a goal of $205 million and could very well be another all-time record lottery offering. Through IMB Church Connections, IMB missionaries have reached out to 93% of the churches of our convention to say thank you for your support and to share with you what your church is doing to make an impact among the nations through the IMB. If you don't yet know the missionary who has been assigned to your church, please, before the day is over, get to the booth in the exhibit hall and help us help you make that connection. At last year's annual meeting, we launched the Project 3000 to explore the remaining 3,072 unengaged, unreached people groups around the world. By 2026, we're asking Southern Baptists to send 300 of their young men and women to be missionary explorers, to research, find, and help us engage the unengaged. We've seen dozens go out. We have dozens more in the pipeline. Thank you for responding. We are excited about the impact that they are already making. Project 3000 is just one of the many ways your church through the IMB is impacting a world full of people still shouldering the world's greatest problem, lostness, by sharing with them the solution to that problem, which is the gospel. We do that work by making sure that we're doing it in a biblical way through the presence of a missionary. And one day, having obeyed the Great Commission and completed our work in the great pursuit, we will arrive with a great multitude that no one could number. From every nation, all tribes and peoples and languages standing before the throne and before the Lamb. But it seems as the Lord has willed it, it is not today. Today, many of those nations are still waiting to hear, so we still have much to do together. God bless you for being a part of the great pursuit.
Are there any questions for Dr. Chitwood and the International Mission Board? Microphone 2A, would you please state your name, your church, and your question?
Don McAllister from the Way Fellowship Church, Peoria, Arizona. My question for Dr. Chitwood is that the sending ceremony is a very exciting time for us at the convention, and we were wondering if there is any way you can make the prayer requests of the missionaries known via the daily bulletin and email or the website, so our church could pray for them specifically as they have requested.
Dr. Chitwood?
Yeah, thank you for that question. And the spirit of, we would love the opportunity to do that. And we'll work with our new president, Clint Presley, with the EC staff and see how we could make those requests available to you next year. I think that would greatly add to the experience we have of having those missionaries present and celebrating them on the day of our convention.
Microphone 1A, would you state your name, your church, and your question?
My name is John Cook. I'm with First Baptist Church in Clarendon, Arkansas. And this question is actually to both President Chitwood and President Ezell. We have the Lottie Moon offering for International Mission Board, and we have the Annie Armstrong for the North American Mission Board. If we are already a cooperating church and we want to give directly to Send Relief, how can we go about doing that?
Yes, thank you for that question. We are incredibly grateful for the tremendous response that Southern Baptists have shown since the launch of our Send Relief partnership with the North American Mission Board in 2020. It would be important for you to know, as maybe some of you are just getting familiar with Send Relief, that the North American side of Send Relief ministry and work is in essence the North American Mission Board. The international side is the International Mission Board. So anything that you're doing through Send Relief overseas, you're doing that through the IMB. Anything you're doing through Send Relief in North America, you're doing that through NAM. Because of the way that it exists, as I've explained it, you're already a part of Send Relief ministry through your cooperative program gifts, your Lottie Moon and Annie Armstrong Easter offering gifts. However, compassion needs and compassion ministry, humanitarian needs, humanitarian ministry, the needs are overwhelming, as we all understand. And Send Relief, we really wanted to be an easy way for Southern Baptists to be able to respond, both in giving, but also in praying, as well as in going and volunteering. Gifts given through the Send Relief website will be used, divided according to the formula that we have in our partnership with NAM, to support both compassion ministry in North America as well as overseas, unless for whatever reason you want to designate a gift. You can designate a gift in a couple of ways. You can just say, I want that to be used overseas. 100% of that comes to the IMB. I want to be used in North America. 100% of that goes to NAM for their work, particularly in partnership with State Convention Disaster Relief Ministry. But a second way you can designate it is we have a long list of projects. If you want to make a specific impact in a specific place in the world, you can name that project, designate that project. When you give the gift, you don't have to give it online. You can send it in directly to NAM or the IMB, send it to the Executive Committee, however you choose to give. And every penny of that will be used for that project. So we honor the wishes of the giver there, whether it's a supporting church or an individual, and it gives great flexibility to you. If your church sees a need, earthquake in Turkey, refugees coming out of Ukraine, a tornado on the Gulf Coast, you can give every penny specifically to that. If you simply want to be a part of compassion ministry overseas, then you will see our strategy there. You can give directly to that. And so I hope that helps you in understanding that the giving part, the most important thing beyond that I would want to say is just what we try to consistently communicate, and that is that compassion ministry through Send Relief is gospel ministry. Everywhere we do work to meet the practical needs of people, we're addressing their greatest problem by taking the gospel and sharing it clearly with them.
The time for questions is expired. We do have one item of business that we need to bring to you. Not for you, Dr. Chitwood, I'm sorry. We do have one item of business that we need to bring to you. During the Executive Committee's second report, their second recommendation was on the adoption of the operating budget. While we were in the midst of that, a messenger at microphone 1 raised a point of parliamentary inquiry, pointing to the page on the daily bulletin that he was referring to, and he said, I don't know what we're voting on. All I have here is a budget and tables. And we were voting on a budget. And I replied to him by saying, that's what we're voting on. We're voting on that budget. I was not correct in saying that. The fact of the matter is, the script for the executive committee member who was making that recommendation was in error, and the actual budget was on page 37, not on page 22. And so because of that, page 37 of the Book of Reports, not of the bulletin, of the Book of Reports is where it was located. And so because I inadvertently misadvised that messenger, but we voted to adopt that, and we think maybe most of you knew what we were voting on, we wanted to see if anyone wished to object to the ruling that we made on that vote. Does anyone wish to object to that? Then by unanimous consent, we will consider that matter to be resolved. Okay, let's make some announcements to you that you see on the screen, but I'll say it anyway. We are not going to have any results to give you at this time. Our tellers are working. Those guys have worked so, guys and gals, those men and women have worked so hard. I've asked for them to report stats when they come back of how we think we may have set a record for the number of ballots that have been counted in this meeting. We'll have the law amendment results after lunch. There's also the possibility for a runoff in the second vice president election, and we have motions to consider. So still a lot of things left to do in the afternoon session. But let's have our closing prayer and go get something to eat.